I'm tired, boys and girls. Well, I had an arrangement to meet a girl. Oh, you got Lord by your side. I was so pleased to be informed of this. Thank you, Lord. It's hard to sing. And the preacher said, you always have the Lord by your side. And I was so pleased to be informed of this that I ran 20 red lights in his honor. Thank you, Lord. Well, I had an arrangement to meet a girl, and I was kind of late. And I thought by the time I got there, she'd be off with the nearest truck driver she could find. Much to my surprise, there she was sitting in the corner, a little bleary, worse for wear and tear, was a girl with faraway eyes. So I tell you, well, that's how I feel, a little bleary, worse for wear and tear. I think this is where we are now. And let me just figure out using the Yahoo number, which is different than numbers you'll see, but just to stay consistent. It's just to get a general idea anyway. Wow. All right, so here's where we are on Railtown. We are, oh man, not only am I feeling bleary, I look bleary, worse for wear and tear. 11,743,247 shares, 8.4% of the float. You know, and these numbers, of course, are rough. This is rough, 197 people. That's a lot, guys. That's a lot. Imagine if this company goes to a, I don't know, $12 billion valuation. You will be in control of a lot of money. A lot of money. A young guy like you is going to control a lot of money. There was an attack yesterday. Hey, CJ Yukon, there was an attack yesterday. Good afternoon to you. Good morning, Chestnut. Eddie, Fast Eddie. All right, you guys. All right, you bought 3,000. All right, so I have to start a new page. Good job, Chestnut. Let me start a new page. Wish I had a pen, not a pencil. Sorry, I'm a little out of it. I probably should have skipped trying to go on today, but I gotta keep the British end up. $85,850. That's great. We should all be buying today. This stock is, I know you're frozen because you're going, oh gosh. It's down. But they have no idea. I'm telling you, they do not study the company, and they do not study the news. The whole thing, there was, this came out on Twitter, a friend of mine sent it. And so somewhere which I cannot find, I cannot seem to access, somewhere you can see in the yellow, the date is June, right kind of in this area, June 30, 2025. The company has executed, this is a filing somewhere. I don't know if it's in Canada or with the SEC, but I was unable to get into the SEC for Railtown. I don't know what I did incorrectly. But anyway, this was by Summer Lake, which is great. The company has executed an MOU for the acquisition of AI Partnerships, the acquisition transaction. The acquisition will create a dynamic organization, revenue, scale. Both companies are working toward finalizing a letter of intent to formalize the acquisition. Well, as I've tried to explain over and over and over again, what the criminals count on is the fact that the SEC requires law-abiding CEOs to announce their game plan ahead of time. The criminals can cheat, they can collude, they can steal, they can manipulate, they can spoof, they can sell stock they don't own, sell stock they haven't borrowed, and no one cares. No one cares because it's a huge money-making scheme. And so what they say, the criminals say, well, on 1,000 companies, whatever the number is that they destroy every year, we'll just keep selling. When it says MOU, or they're working on a letter of intent, just sell. Two results. They're both good for the shorts. One is that when the stock goes down, the company being acquired, the CEO says, hey, you got to give us more shares. You got to give us a bigger percentage of your company because the deal's changed. And so the criminals win because the per share value of the acquisition is reduced by a lot. The other thing they do, they hope that when the acquired CEO talks to the acquiring CEO, says, hey, deal's off, and they can't come to an agreement, the criminals win because everybody sells the stock off. And so it's a great illegal scheme to destroy companies, and nobody on Wall Street cares about it. Why? Because their focus is on the 4 or 5 big institutions, and private equity. They don't care about honest markets. They do not care about honest markets. So that's what happens. The other thing, that by selling stock, Canaccord is the agent. Canaccord is as hooked into the criminal shorts as any company out there. They figure, well, Canaccord's going to bring an offering, and they will do it. We get paid, we get warrants, we get a discounted price, we can negotiate the price. And if they've already shorted it, they've created the money out of thin air to give. So really, it's got to stop. But I don't think there's anyone courageous enough, first, to be honest about what happens, and then secondly, to do something about it. But anyway, my belief and my I guess thesis is that Railtown is not in that situation. They already raised about, I don't know, $2 million the last couple of times. They don't need money. They don't have debt. The insiders are in there with you in the same stock, so they're not going to do anything that's going to destroy this company. They have experience with financial transactions, and they're not here. They already got money. They have their homes. They go to Whistler and Banff and all the other accoutrements of the wealthy. They don't need to screw you to have some money, and they won't. That's my belief. I also think that this deal just has to be announced. Just to be consistent, I don't think it'll be this week. It's vacation time, and I notice around in DC, everything's coming to life again. People are back, Congress is back, but it's a very slow ramp up, and I would expect it'll be next week or the following week. But if I had to pick a time that you have to just hold your breath and maintain your courage and don't be frightened out, I'll pick Wednesday next week until Monday the 15th, that range, whatever Wednesday is. Let's look it up. It'd be the 10th, Wednesday the 10th to Monday the 15th. If you can hold your breath to that time frame, I think we will surprise the criminals, and I think you will be surprised by what happens. Let's look at the price. Railtown is 47.7 by 48. There's 89,500 shares. In other words, less than $45,000 worth has traded today. And that is affecting a $65 million market cap by keeping it under 50 cents. Guys, this shouldn't be hot money. This should not be something you're trying to trade. Remember, there are people out there that are hot money. They like to trade. Hey, look, this is breaking out. Look on this chart. It's breaking, and you can see it hit the 20-day moving average. It'll go to the 200. And every now and then I'll show you charts. But I do it, I go with the trade first. And by trade, I mean the investment. And that's the question. Is it an investment for 20 years, 5 years, 5 months? My time frame is usually get in the story while it is attractively priced considering what's coming, and then later on when it's fully priced, maybe there's a better story to move to. In the case of Railtown, I think this might be the only one you need, but we have to be ever alert, as I've tried to show, that there could be a stock market correction and there could be an AI correction, although AI is more than just this blanket statement, AI. There's the original AI stocks that you know about, many of them. And then there's this AI 2.0 concept, which I think is real, and I think it's massive. And on sort of above it or with it are these 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 giant AI companies. I read, I don't know if I have it. I think I threw it away. But in a newspaper article, Wall Street Journal, I don't have it here, I don't think. I'll try to look. It might be over there. I might not have thrown it away. But anyway, the valuations of the stock market are at their highest level ever. But also the percentage of the stock market that's represented by 6, 7, 8 companies is at its highest level ever. So remember, when I say the stock market can correct, it doesn't mean every stock corrects. As my boss used to say when I was younger, it's amazing getting older. It's amazing. You wonder what happened to that person. I barely remember that person. But my boss, who was older, said when there's a correction, or when there's a bear market, it becomes a market of stocks. It's no longer a stock market, it's a market of stocks. So in that environment, the smaller AI companies comparatively can still do a tremendous relative performance, and maybe just outright performance, even though the bigger names are pulling back. So anyway, Railtown is 89.5 in volume. The last trade, 200 shares, 200 bloody shares is pricing the whole complex. 200 shares. And that's just because news hasn't come out. Now, your competition out there is saying, hey, you got to hurry to Energy Vault. That is not my vault. That's up 12.5 cents. Please do not listen to the siren song that this is going to be a great story. It's not. This is a stock that was destroyed. The CEO and the top people take a huge amount of money out of the company. As far as I can tell, even though you're being told they're buying stock, they've actually filed to sell stock, each of those insiders. And there's toxic financing all over this Energy Vault. It never has worked before. Toxic financing is a way for the hedge funds who back the bird dogs to make a lot of money, and they need you when they're buying so they have something to steal. And the people bringing it to you get paid in stock, they sell it, and then if you challenge them, they're going to say, hey, do your own due diligence. I got out of mine. It's still trading. It's still, I'll stand in for that story anytime you want. Whatever. Just stop listening to all that. It's just not fruitful. ZJYL's down 2 cents at 60, basically 63 cents. G-Bucks is 64 cents. Hey, they're meeting in San Diego. They're bringing in the Middle East. They're bringing in a gold company. they're bringing in $200 million. There's a big short. It's going to go. It's good. What was the number? $150? 64 cents. I don't know, maybe one of these will work, but why are you even looking at them? Don't get scared away. Railtown's the only thing you need to own in this piece of crap category. POC, POS stocks. The only one you need to own is Railtown. And Railtown is not a POS. Railtown is a diamond somehow stuck here with all the other crapola simply because the American stock markets suck. Well, take advantage of it. This is the only week, or next week, or the following week, but if I'm correct, this might be the last week that the shorts, the criminals, have an opportunity to break the law whilst the guy that runs the over-the-counter market looks the other way because he has no interest in an honest market. None. But take advantage of it. You can buy all you want right now under 50 cents. Because the criminals will give it to you. They're going to regret it. They haven't studied the story. They haven't. It works every other time. They don't bother themselves with understanding anything about this. Anyway, all right, let me look at if there's any other stocks. How's Quantum doing? Quantum's up 17 cents, 16.48. That's going to go back under $10. But nothing moves in a straight line. Mountain is it's up 3 cents, 11.98. Please don't get suckered in by these beauties. The Benedetto beauties. How's Soundhound? How's Soundhound? Soundhound is down 34 cents at $13. The market cap for Soundhound is $5.5 billion. $5.5 billion. Let's Google what is Soundhound revenue. Let's see what Soundhound's revenue is. They ended, according to the Q2, Soundhound ended the second quarter this year with 42.7 million in revenue, an increase of 200% year over year. So 43 million in revenue for the second quarter, and Soundhound trades for $5 billion. The trailing 12 months leading up to June was 131 million in revenue. And for the fiscal year 2024, Soundhound did 85 million in revenue. Remember these numbers. Full year 2025 guidance for Soundhound is 160 to 178 million. Remember these numbers. I think all of those numbers, obviously that's a broad choice because we don't have information yet. But if I had to guess, it's entirely believable that Railtown AI Technologies could come out with, I don't know, second quarter, third quarter revenue, I don't know, could it rival 40 million combined? So it'd be less. Could it be 40 or 50 million? I don't know. That might be pressing it. But they announced 5 revenue deals. What if each of those are 10 million? Or they're each 5 million? We'll find out. We'll find out. We just don't know right now. But I do think that Railtown very quickly can get to that. I don't know about 160, 175 million projected revenue. But if you just pick 2 numbers, Railtown all by itself with Conductor, just pulling it out of wild guess, could do 75 million in revenue in 2026. And then AI partners, the 165 companies have, according to something that was posted on X, but I think was taken down because of the quiet period, but I have a picture of it, but I'm not going to show it to you because it might be a violation of the quiet period. It has 400 million. Well, just assume they get 75 million. 75 million plus 75 billion combined, 150 million. And if Soundhound is the correct valuation at 5.5 billion, maybe Railtown exits this year at 5 billion in valuation. You say that's crazy. Well, Mr. Faulty, that's crazy. You are crazy, Mr. Faulty. Soundhound. When I was looking up trying to find that filing, I came across again. And of course, I can't find it now. The investor page for Railtown, and they didn't have the filing there. You know what RLIF stands for? Reinforcement Learning from AI Feedback. RLIF stands for Reinforcement Learning from AI Feedback. Reinforcement Learning from AI Feedback. Of course, that's what comes up here. Instead of, I guess Google can't read my mind. I can't find the website now. Serenity now. Serenity now. Serenity now. Just go to a news story and hit the link if I can find it. Sorry, it's just so frustrating. I cannot seem to sign in to Railtown. All right, here. Oh, I see, because they have a .ai. I see. So maybe I can find that investor page there. Nope. All right. Just got to try something else again. There, I think I found it. All right. I found it. Investors. Okay. I finally found it. I'm sorry. Small cap. No, I don't want to accept all. I don't. Why do I have to? I've given you my email so many times. This is why my email is full of junk. You can't do anything anymore without giving your email. Small cap communications. Screw them. Of course, they're just trying to build their list so they can charge the next CEO a lot of money. Anyway, I've read this to you before, but I think it's pretty interesting to go over it again. On August 21, 2024, the CEO wrote a shareholder update, and that's how long ago. The website doesn't have anything current because of the quiet period. But I think it's an interesting article. I won't read every single sentence, but this is from Railtown's website. So over the past 3 months, this is a year ago. Over the past 3 months, Railtown AI Technologies has achieved several significant milestones which will have a positive impact on our growth and long-term success. Key highlights: strategic partnerships, Mila, Quebec AI Institute, and AMI, AMII, Alberta Machine Learning Institute. They released their AGI platform releases. That's Agenic General Intelligence platform. They launched Conductor 1 and Conductor 2 a year ago, and bringing advanced automation and intelligence to the software development lifecycle. Conductor 3 is currently in development. Well, they've got that finished by now. The company has a debt-free status, and there were some warrants exercised. They did last year they did a private placement of around $2 million, but this year ago. They welcomed seasoned enterprise sales veteran who has experience dealing with companies such as Fandango and Shopify. And he slips the light Fandango as they dance across the room. This strategic hire will drive our business development efforts moving forward. And then their compliance achievements, they made a lot of progress since then. They got approval for their SOC 2, their GDPR, and their ISO 27001 compliance requirements. You need these to be fully compliant with your solutions when you sell them to your clients. Anyway, I'm not going to read through it. It gives data security and business credibility. They also have a general data protection regulation. Not going to run through all that. And information security. Yeah, I'm going to skip that page. They have patents. And then they have a general discussion on the AI sector outlook. Quote unquote, too soon, too late, or just in time. This is a year ago, but I think it applies now. This is a constant reckoning that founders deal with every time we sit down and stare at a whiteboard to start reiterating an idea, or when we begin a white paper on new intellectual property. Why am I telling you this? Well, I need to start from the beginning. This is a year ago. My co-founders and I have indulged in the good fortune of timing. We were all young men when the new paradigm of technology for everyone, starting with the PC, was thrust upon the world in the early 1980s. All of us are fresh with backgrounds in software. Or electrical engineering. It was an exciting time, and it provided limitless opportunity. During my generation, I can safely say we have seen 6 or 7 monumental technological shifts or advancements which have had a profound effect on all of our lives. This was written a year ago. From personal computers to GPS to cloud to e-commerce to smartphones to platforms to apps and now to AI. Every single one of these technical ahas world-changing ideas has generated or created an immense amount of personal wealth on top of adding to the collective GDP. Every single one of these advancements has 2 very clear things in common. They improve efficiency and they improve productivity. AI plays into that concept. In a way, the world quickly realizes AI is peerless in its predecessor comparisons. AI is efficiency. AI is productivity. AI is efficiency and productivity squared. History tells us these advancements, when they occur, are the secret ingredient in the golden recipe for massive technological success. Now, when I was thinking about adding an AI outlook to this update, I could have just cut, copied, and pasted a bunch of articles from Goldman Sachs, Kleiner Perkins, Gartner, and everyone in between predicting the growth in AI and in its net positive effect on the GDP. However, I thought a personal experience, a story about being, quote, too soon, too late, or just on time, unquote, would be more relevant, if not more compelling, to communicate how perfectly we are situated for our exciting journey ahead. This was written a year ago. I don't think it makes it any less true. Back then, a fellow Railtown member and I developed what we thought was the coolest thing we could have ever built. It was going to change everything and significantly have an impact on efficiency and productivity. We built our own drop box years before the lockbox. And the idea was a twinkle in Dropbox's idea was a twinkle in the idea in the mind of the founders of Dropbox today. Everyone we gave our idea to loved it. But there was one problem. No one wanted to download a third-party app onto their PC, and there was no way a company would have ever allowed a third-party app on their company's computers. Fear was the prevailing force, never mind firewalls, fears of security, viruses, etc. So getting back to being years ahead of Dropbox, unfortunately, we were also years ahead of platforms, smartphones, tablets, and etc. Well, you get the point. There were many ideas, but our brilliant idea was way too early. Then we conceived of Railtown and the new technical shift of artificial intelligence. Well, with time, experience, gained knowledge, and gray hair, we were much better prepared to understand what was coming and arriving quickly. So this time, we started our journey deliberately wanting to be too early and giving us the time to develop our complex model so it could be delivered on time when the market was ready to adopt it, which is now, and will be now for years to come. AI will continue to be that transformative, life-changing advancement, which means our lives will never be the same again. Sincerely, Corey Brandolini, co-founder and chief executive officer. All right, let's see what the stock price is doing. Soundhound is under 13. It's $12.98.99. Are you out of your mind? Cents. Mountain is up. Quantum is up. Railtown is up. Barely. Railtown is 47.7 by 48. 89,800 shares traded. And it's still that same 200 shares that is pricing the entire complex of Railtown's market capitalization. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, let's see what you're saying. Northeast Iowa. Northeast Iowa bought 110. Good job. Every little bit's going to count. Hey, Julius. Hello to you. Norm Foss, another negative guy. Oh, maybe it's a positive. Norm is saying there's a huge cup and handle formed over 1.5 years, which you can clearly see on the 2-year chart. Well, one problem for me, I can't get a 2-year chart on Railtown because they priced one trade at a penny. And so the chart looks just flat. But if I go to, maybe I'll go to Railtown, Canada, and I'll see if I can see what you're talking about on Railtown price, I mean, the chart should be the same difference in terms of well, I guess everything's to the eye of the beholder. It's a very strange cup and handle. On the other hand, it is there. You're right. It is there. Let me see if I can show you guys what he's talking about. There's the cup and handle. You can see this giant cup, and then the handle starts up here and comes down. Normally, you have a little bit more of a cup, but he's right. That's a reasonable interpretation. Good enough for me. It's a very bullish sign. Very bullish sign. Thank you, Norm, for that. Pete the Greek, how are you? Michael Haight, the very good, Michael. That's how to do it. Keep taking advantage. When you have a hunch, buy a bunch. Johnny Cochran could have been a good stockbroker. Hey, Steve, thank you very much. Everybody goes through it, but it still means a lot to me to hear your kind words. I appreciate it. Volstoy King. Better. Yeah, I don't know those other ones. This guy is a hot money guy. I think he works for the shorts, but people say, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Look, it doesn't matter. Whatever the motive is, if you want to be hot money, this is the wrong channel for you. This is not hot money. Going from one shitty name to another shitty name, hoping to make your account grow, is the best way to stub your toe. I see. So why don't you guys play the housing market? There's going to be an interest rate cut and again in October. So go play the housing market. Why don't you go put 50 grand to work in the housing market and see what kind of returns you can get? By the way, stay away from housing. It's all fraud. It was all puffed up on Joe Biden's mortgage relief crap, and now the Fed's going to come in with more. It's all a different kind of falsification of loans. It's just flippers and investors pushing it down the road, buy it, do a little renovation, borrow against it, do it again, and it's all paperwork. It's all creating collateral for the banking system to keep issuing debt, and it's all going to come to a head. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about it. He's hot money, he's young, he's cocky, and he's never seen what happens when the punch bowl is taken away. And interest rates ain't going to cut it, even if they cut them. This is insanity. But if you want to listen to him, I'm sure you can follow him on Twitter. Gary Maddle, good afternoon. Hey, so now what? Thank you very much. Justin, good job adding. Good job, Justin. Let me give you a idea about real estate. Most baby boomers own 2 or 3 properties. They don't live in them all, but they think they're good investments. Who are going to buy those properties? And what happens when just enough baby boomers go, get me out before the stock goes? The price of my house, my house in Aspen, my house at Dewey Beach, my house near college campus in Boston, my house that my mother's house I inherited. What happens when just enough of those people say sell? It's interest rates ain't going to help it. Ain't going to help it. It's just insanity, the crap you have to listen to. No, Norm, I corrected myself. It doesn't look like you're negative on it. I appreciate the chart analysis. Cup and handle in the books is prettier than that, but obviously that's a nice looking cup and handle. You are correct. And my memory of it is you either use the width of the cup or the length of the handle as your first move. That's pretty significant, particularly since I use a logarithmic charting system. So it's a big move up, so I appreciate it. Volstoy is a 9 to 5 average worker, no way hedge fund. You play both sides depending on what the chart is saying. Guys, this is a 9 to 5 worker, which is great, and I'm glad he's here. But how do you have, if you're working 9 to 5, how do you have enough time during your 9 to 5 day to track charts? He says he goes by charts. That's trading. You got to sit in front of the computer. I don't think it's 9 to 5. I think it's 9:30 to 4 at least, because most of the moves happen in just a little bit of the time. So you can't trade if you're a 9 to 5 person, but you can try it. It's all the rage now. I'm not. If you trade Railtown for a little bit of a move, you're going to miss out on the gigantic appreciation potential of this stock. And you don't have to be looking at charts. Voltoy is a mixture of Volkswagen. I had a MK for R32 Toy King. Just means it's a rare car. Ah, okay. It's a nice name. Norm Foss says, remember, 10 baggers aren't found, they're held. Well, that's a good, they are found. But I think what he means is you just can't hop from horse to horse to horse. You got to stick with the same one. And Secretariat didn't win the first bit of his life, and then was magnificent. Railtown really is the real deal. Hold on, people. I'm serious. I agree with Norm Foss. He's right. And I think it'll be a 10 bagger just as it catches up with where it should be. And from that price, I think we will have to study the information that is released. But I think from there, it can give you another 10 bagger. So I actually think you're looking at, from 50 cents, it's going to go to $5 or more. And then wherever it stops there, 5, 6, 7, 8 even, 9 even, it's going to give you another 10x from there. But we need to process the information as it comes. That's 100x. It's not 10 bagger, it's 100 bagger. I think you've stumbled upon in Railtown. 100 baggers you can't find at Safeway or Whole Foods. Remember, 10 baggers aren't found, they're held. Railtown, really, same thing. I see. So you're not, it's figuratively speaking. Okay, good. All right. I got Jim Rickard's latest report. He used to have hair. And I haven't looked at it yet. So let's see what's going on in Jim Rickard's world. Putin's war to win. Trump is about to make the worst mistake of his new administration. Yeah. I warned that if Trump did not act quickly, Biden's war would soon become Trump's war. I just think it's time to walk away from Ukraine. Talks about Iran. Finally somebody in the news is talking about China, the problems with China. China's economy is imploding. This is attributable to a combination of excessive debt, crashing demographics. Hey, finally somebody. So the things I've been saying, there's confirmation by someone you can trust. Wasted investment are shutting down large parts of the manufacturing sector in China. Neither military escalation nor the economic distress is the biggest story from China right now. This is amazing. It's in print. The truly momentous event is that President Xi has lost power. That's what I said a month ago. It's from this woman on YouTube that I follow. That's a big deal. The big, beautiful bill. Promises made, promises kept. So what's in the bill? It permanently extends the lower tax rates that Trump passed in 2017. It increases standard deduction by $750 for individuals and $1,500 for couples. Permanent increase in child's tax credit to $2,200. Full expensing of business capital investment and domestic research and development expenses. Eliminates most itemized deductions. So that I guess could be read as negative. Limits on gambling loss deductions. So winnings can still be taxed. Eliminates the moving expense deduction, except for active duty military and the CIA. It raises the cap on state and local tax deduction to $40,000. No tax on overtime pay up to $12,500 for individuals, and surprisingly, for a couple, it's $25,000. For an individual, it's $12,500. For a couple, It's 25 grand. No tax on tips up to 25 grand. Tax credits are allowed for contributions to groups who fund private school scholarships. There's an increase in the reporting threshold for payments to independent contractors. Taxes on farmland sales can be paid in installments. It eliminates the firearms transfer tax. It increases the income tax on large college endowments. Why gold wins when the AI hype fades? Hey, so there's our play. We can run AI and then swap over. See, there's a lot of misunderstanding on artificial intelligence. People think that the machines are going to have intelligence. They're just rapid data processors. That's all it is. Interesting article. I'll save it maybe later in the call. He likes Royal Gold, RGLD, and he says Royal Gold will keep outrunning physical gold. It's a well-managed royalty and streaming company. Royal Gold owns a diversified portfolio of royalty and streaming assets, predictable cash flow, and a long track record of paying rising dividends. Maybe we can talk about that, but his action to take is to buy Royal Gold up to $170 a share. I don't want to read it all right as it's hot off the press because it seems a little unfair to other paying members of his service. Statistics show that more Americans are choosing to either purchase used cars or wait longer before purchasing a new car. This makes sense when you consider just how expensive it is to buy a new car these days. According to Experian, the average monthly payment for a new car is now, gulp, $745. And last month, LendingTree reported that 8.6%, that's almost the same percentage of the outstanding shares of the float of Railtown that we own. No, the outstanding shares, the outstanding shares that we own. 8.6 of U.S. auto loan holders pay $1,000 or more a month. The statistics point to an aging fleet of vehicles in America. Over the past 20 years, the average vehicle age on the United States roads has increased from 9.8 years to 12.6 years over the last 15 years. So cars are older. According to credit scoring from Vantage Score, delinquencies on credit cards and auto loan payments from people making over $150,000 annually have jumped by 20% over the last 2 years. As financial stress mounts, fewer consumers are interested in buying new cars. So therefore, he recommends Genuine Parts Co. I'm not going to read about it because same reason. Genuine Parts is a dividend aristocrat with 69 consecutive years of annual dividend growth. Didn't know that. Then there's an article by Byron W. King. I used to subscribe to his service. And he says that every piece of gold has a story to tell, don't it? Every piece of gold has a story to tell, don't it? Well, it's a good article, I'm sure. He likes contango ore. We'll read about it after some time goes by, because I think it's unfair. All right, so Rickard's top 5 buys. Royal Gold, #1. Diamondback Energy, which is FANG, F-A-N-G. I like Diamondback. In fact, I just saw a presentation by them. Hecla Mining. I like Hecla. They're up in the Golden Triangle in British Columbia and elsewhere. But they're this other company, Dolly Varden, that I so successfully have owned while the shorts have destroyed it, is right in the heart of it. And so I know a bit. Hecla's good. And then Triple Flag Precious Metals Corp and International Seaways. I like International Seaways. So Diamondback, he would buy up to $155 a share. That's done really well. Hecla Mining, he'd buy up to $7 a share. That was under $4. I think it was under $3 recently. All right, he has an article about is America in a depression? And the key about a depression is that they are measured against what your economy could be. It's not always negative. It's just if you're producing well below what your economy should be producing or could be producing. So he's got a long list, an abbreviated version of his full portfolio. But the stocks that I'll read out, the stocks that stand out to me, there's not a lot of change. Newmont Mining, Fortuna Silver Mines, First Majestic Silver, Equinox Gold, there's some other names that I don't really know much about. This is interesting. The PIMCO 25-year zero coupon ETF. So he must be calling for interest rates to come down. He also has the iShares 1 to 3 year Treasury ETF. I love APA. APA is used to be Apache. ConocoPhillips, who just announced they're firing a bunch of people. B2 Gold, I like. Schlumberger, awesome. That's interesting. Sprott Uranium Miners. I can't recommend that because I hate nuclear power. Do you know if we just hung our clothes out to dry on the clothesline, we could get rid of all our nuclear power plants? Well, that's before AI. Intel. And let's see how Intel's doing since he recommended it. He says buy up to $26. I like that. Barrick Gold, Marathon Petroleum, Hecla Mining, and Fang. All right. That's my brief summary, which we can go back over. I just got it. It's dated August 2025. Oh, so it's a month old already, so we can talk about it probably. I wonder why he sends it a month late. I don't know. All right, let's look at the prices. 2 o'clock. Amazing. 47.7 to 48, 62,447 to buy. The sale is 10,000. Well, there was 200 shares I told you about. Now add to that 2,500 shares at 47.7, and that's pricing the entire complex. Unbelievable. Ralph Fun. I'm at 103. Good job, Ralph. We will make it. We will make it. We will. Of course, it's opinion. Hey, Donna. Thank you, Ralph. Appreciate it. Thank you, Pizza Rules. Appreciate that. It gives me renewed commitment to try to make a difference here in at least almost 200 lives. Maybe there's more people that haven't told me, but it gives me that commitment to try to get that done before too much more time goes by. Let's see how other shares are trading. All those other ones are red except for Quantum is up 17 cents. I guess I don't have Energy Vault here. Let me look how that is not my vault is doing. It's up 6.5 cents at 216. Please don't do what you want to do, but it's just very dangerous trading. Very dangerous. Let me see what the Morgan report is saying. Darn it. All right, September. Do you remember the 21st night, September? Ba-da-ba-dee-ya. Interesting. He's talking about oil and gas. I like it. I like it. He says, he's trying to answer, this is David Morgan, and I recommend him very highly. He's saying, what else is a good investment other than the metals? And he says, obviously, oil and gas are very much at the top of the list. They are currently unloved and are trading for relatively low prices. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Mining stocks are now outperforming the metals, and we missed out on that first move. It's not over. This is just the beginning, and therefore new funds should go to equity rather than physical if you already own physical. So we miss these. There's cycles that we keep missing, but you got to wait sometimes in life. So the digital future will require energy. That is why I believe we are early in a multi-year repricing of the energy complex, with oil and natural gas broadly undervalued relative to the demands of a digital economy. I couldn't agree more. And that's where we'll go. That's where we'll go. We are in a multi-year repricing of the energy complex. Copper is the bloodstream to the power system, and silver is the essential. A new force is stirring, a shift in asset allocation away from U.S. bonds. I never liked his music anyway. And even the big blue chips toward commodities and tangible assets. Where did you hear that first? Of course, I probably absorbed one of the guys I've read for 20, 25 years is David Morgan. The fracking miracle is all but over. The peak has probably been reached, and an energy crunch is ahead of us. It is time to consider some energy companies in your portfolio. He's not going to make formal recommendations right now. Data centers are the smokestacks of the 2020s. They don't belch soot, but they inhale electricity. As AI inference migrates from a novelty to an embedded service, such as healthcare, logistics, financial modeling, defense, and I hope lawyers, the power draw is not linear, it's enormous. Who was that? That Austin Powers girl, Dixie? You can guess her last name. In the real world, when demand outruns transmission, he's talking about the power grid, politicians make speeches, but utilities and grid operators reach for what is dispatchable now. Natural gas. It's abundant, fast to build, and it pairs well with intermittent renewable energy. Nuclear is the baseload backbone, regaining political. It scares the hell out of me. I didn't notice any birds. I think I saw 3 in San Diego. Of course, people think that's normal. I wonder if it's the water cycle taking the radiation out of the Pacific Ocean, comes up in the rain and comes back down, all from 14 years of Fukushima Daiichi that no one talks about. Overlay a decade of underinvestment in supply for oil and gas. That's because all the overly educated people out of the Northeast decided that we're not going to use oil and gas in 10 years. Make it so. So you have a setup where modest demand surprises translate into real price signals. This is not a one-quarter trade. It's a capacity cycle, and capacity cycles pay investors who own cash flow assets, Capacity cycles pay investors who own cash flow assets in a way that's hard to replicate. So that's what I want to build. Oil, gas, nuclear, 3 tiers of the new energy sector. I would leave out nuclear. Oil still sets the price movement. Diesel, jet fuel, non-OPEC growth, North American offshore, Brazil, Guyana, has helped. But the cushion is no longer as robust as it once was. That means the price corridor may be wider than investors want to admit. In other words, the volatility, the how high the price has to go to encourage further drilling. You don't need a super spike. A steady, slightly higher floor is enough to turn integrated oil companies and complex refiners into compounding machines. Natural gas is the unheralded prize of the digital area. I agree. LNG capacity has been increasing steadily for years. I wish we wouldn't sell it offshore, but we do. Data center load and grid firming raise the baseline burn of natural gas, even in mild winters. Nuclear. Energy without conductors is a light bulb without a filament. Copper is the required metal for transmission, motors, and everything which spins. Silver is the most conductive metal we use at scale, crucial to photovoltaics, power electronics, and the dense electronics content of our quote-unquote smart lives. Both copper and silver face the same problem. Geology and permitting don't care about your climate goals or your AI ambitions. It takes years to find, fund, and build new supplies. If it flies, floats, or funds, rent it. In the meantime, the incremental demand must be bid for the marginal amount. Investor mindset is shifting. Very few are aware what this means for the future. After 15 years of financialization favoring bonds and stocks, Large pools of capital are beginning to reopen the question of tangible assets. Some of this is pragmatic. Negative or near zero real yields still reverberate around the system, and many institutions remain underweight commodities, all those geniuses. Some of it is strategic. Deglobalization, tariff walls, reshoring, and national security supply chains probably will increase the demand for tangibles. Commodities are a small pond compared to the ocean of U.S. Treasuries and S&P style equities. That asymmetry is the point. This is brilliant. This guy, I love this guy. A modest reweighting, just a shift from the current 2 to 3% to 5 to 7% ownership for the largest allocators of capital could prompt price discovery to rise and accelerate more quickly than models calibrated to what occurred over the last 10 years anticipate. If the rotation gathers pace, here are 5 consequences to consider. Price level and volatility rise at the same time. Commodity upside gaps in prices occur when the supply of commodities is inelastic. Higher average prices create more anyway, let's not get too complicated with that. I don't want to read every single word. So then they have, number 2, a capex cycle resurrected on a lag. High prices for commodities fund new supply, but not overnight. Shareholders demand discipline, regulators demand paperwork, and your mama demands a phone call. Three, equity leadership broadens and rotates. That's it. Equity leadership will spread out across the big names first in oil and gas, the big names in mining first. Number 4, policy risk rises with public attention. Okay. All sorts of regulatory crap. And then currencies might be repriced. Countries who own a lot of resources, their currencies might have strength. A steady grinding bid into the commodity complex is enough to change the winners and the language we use to describe risk. As this trend continues, which will be grinding higher, it'll create a strong market and strong liquidity. We do expect there will be panic buying into hard asset investments. He gives some ideas in the energy sector. I'm not going to give them right now because this just came out. And I don't think it would be fair to paying subscribers like myself. But I'm not, the only stock I don't have a big account anymore, but the only stock I own, other than the ones I can't get out of, is Railtown. He talks a bit about Zelensky. Wow. Russia's oil production in Venezuela has reached about 120,000 barrels per day. Wow, I didn't know Russia was in Venezuela. That's the thing. We have a bunch of neocons running everything, and they're not focusing on the real issues. He talks about lithium reserves. It looks like Peru and Argentina have a lot. He likes Aya Gold and Silver, Anika Eagle Mines, Franco Nevada, Encore Energy, Endeavor Mining, Equinox Gold. We can talk about those later. And so there's a few more. Let me go to his conclusion. Oh, he loves Silver Wheaton. Where have you heard that before? Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton. Cool Whip. All right, so the final thoughts. The big story this month is simple. Energy. Energy is undervalued. Metals are underowned. And capital is shifting. Damn it. Oil and natural gas remains the lifeblood of the economy, even in a digital age, and the market has yet to price in their true importance. At the same time, silver, gold, and platinum continue to be real money in a world drowning in paper promises. We are watching the first cracks in the bond and equity dominance, with money moving quietly into commodities. If that flow accelerates, the upside could be explosive, but we just have to wait for the regulators to release money. Conservative investors should anchor in quality producers. Aggressive accounts can reach for well-chosen explorers and developers. The message is clear. Tangible assets are no longer optional. They are essential. Until next month, wishing you health above wealth and wisdom above knowledge. All right, let's look at the prices at 2:30. That is not my vault, is up 8 cents to 218. Quantum is up 6.5 cents to 1637. These are all sucking money in. So there's something to steal. MTEN is up 0.029 to 1197.94. Soundhound is down 54 cents, 54.5 to $12.87.5. Railtown is up 2 cents. Railtown is 48.66. The volume is now, that's weird. The volume now says 29,000. They reduced, they must have taken about 50,000 out. It's all lies. And no one enforces the rules. They get to cheat, lie, steal, collude, collaborate, and no one enforces securities laws. There's 54,847 to buy at 47.7. There's 12,000. Oh, now they're doing the dance. They're showing you 12,500 to sell, 62,500 to sell, another 62,500 to sell. They want you thinking there's a lot for sale. There is Zipola for sale of Railtown. Nobody is selling any unless you decided to sell some. They want to take your shares. This is the only stock available. You know, back on that Railtown page from probably from a year ago, I don't know why my head is pounding. I don't know if that's a bad sign. I don't know if that's a bad sign to have a head that's pounding. I do not know if that's a bad sign. This is probably from a year ago. It is. It's as of June, a year ago. They had issued an outstanding from a year ago of 130 million. Founders and directors, 54 million shares. They're not selling. 54 million shares, they're not selling. Warrants, employee options. So the founders and directors own 55 million shares. Employees 3, call it 60 million. They're not selling. There's 100 million in the float. 60 million is not being sold. So at least 40. I know from talking to a lot of people that in Canada, primarily over the last many months, probably 30 million has been purchased by people who intend to hold the stock for a long, long time. One guy, I don't know if he ever got there. I don't know his name, but he was trying to buy 10 million shares and he had made substantial progress, but he was going to set it aside for his children. 5 years. It's not for sale. If he got there, that adds up to 70 million. And if a few other people in Canada added to their position, you can get rapidly to 80, 90, even 100 million shares that are not for sale. The entire float is 100 million approximately, and you all own 11 million of it. Yours is the only stock they can shake the tree. Don't sell. They're just liars. They're devils, not men. Just don't sell. And when the news comes out, it'll be our turn. The bid is 48, 7,750. The ask is 49.1, 52,500. That same number. That same number. Now the volume shows 134,000. I can't explain the changes. Let me see what you all are saying. Let me see what you're saying. Did a third quarter earnings report come out? I don't know. I showed you some information from the second quarter. I would doubt that the third quarter would have come out because the third quarter hasn't even ended yet. So, but I was unable to find the second quarter report. It seems to be relatively vague, but they just reiterated that they're working on the LOI. I'll show it to you. I was unable to find this for myself, but Summer Lake put this up here. And you can see in the yellow right in the middle here, the period ended June 30, 2025. The company has executed an MOU, which is why the criminals sell, for the acquisition of AI partnerships. They want to destroy the deal. They also, if they have money from selling, they can give it to Canaccord. That's how their thinking goes. If there's a financing, they don't have to raise money. Nobody works on Wall Street anymore. And anyway, they're working right down here in the yellow. They're working on an LOI. Well, that just gives the criminals more chances to criminal. B. Zane, oh boy, he's using words criminals and Benzito again. Oh, God. B. Zane, sign of things to come, people. B. Zane, that's his escape route. You must be talking about somebody else. You must have me confused with somebody else. I don't intend that to be an escape route. I just call it as I see it. And respectfully, B. Zane, in about a week to 3 weeks, it's you who are going to be looking for an escape route. I don't know what you're going to do, but I think at least one of your accounts is going to blow up. And I don't know if you've isolated your credits so that you have accounts in other LLCs unrelated to this account where you shorted Railtown, but you're going to have a heck of a time escaping the damage to your accounts that are short Railtown and to your credit. So good luck, B. Zane. Things are not going well for you, B. Zane? I'm sorry to hear it. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Really couldn't happen to a nicer guy, B. Zane. Sorry to hear that things are not going well for you. Oh, that's not what you meant? Well, sometimes your subconscious writes something that you really mean. Oh, God. B. Zane, as always, using his mouthpiece. What do you mean, my mouthpiece? I give you my name. You don't even have a name. What mouthpiece? You're hearing what I'm saying, aren't you, B. Zane? It's not a mouthpiece. It's mine. I can't knock it off my head to blame criminals and Benzito. I'm not blaming anybody. That's not what I said. I do blame the criminals for the stock spoofing and the stock being suppressed, but that actually gives us a chance to buy a lot of stock, B. Zane, before you get in trouble. But Benzito, that's not how you pronounce his name or spell it, but I'm not blaming him for the stock being down. As far as I know, he's bullish. As far as I know, he's bullish on Railtown. I just believe he needs this money to move over to his other stories because that's where he's getting stock. I'm almost certain he has not received any stock from Railtown. So the only way he can get paid is to distract people by other hot stocks that you, B. Zane, can start shorting. But in Railtown, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You are in trouble. And, couldn't happen to a better guy. But I'm sure I'm sure that you will make money in other stocks. You you have shorted. But thank you for your input. Autumn wind. All right, autumn. All right, good job. The autumn wind, the summer winds. No, the winter winds. I see. 51.8. The autumn wind and the winter winds, they have come and gone. And still the days, those lonely days, they go on and on. And guess who sighs his lullabies through nights that never end? My fickle friend, the summer wind. I see. The summer wind came blowing in from across the sea. It lingered there to touch your hair and walk with me. All summer long, we sang a song, and then we strolled that golden sand, two sweethearts and the summer wind. Like painted kites, those days and nights, they went flying by. The world was new beneath a blue umbrella sky. Then softer than a piper man, one day it called to you. I lost you to the summer wind. The autumn wind and the winter winds, they have come and gone. And still the days, those lonely days, they go on and on. And guess who sighs his lullabies through nights that never end? My fickle friend, the summer wind. Good job, Autumn. 51.8 is awesome. Hey, Jack Hamilton. Jack Hamilton, always good to see the opposite side joining the chat. More proof RT is on the right track. RT is on the RT. Winged Wolf. Wow, $4 under spot. $4 under spot. Buy all you can. Oh, they offered it. Oh, yeah, they're offering it to buy it from you. Screw that. Selling of $4 over spot. It's starting to pick up. But as we wait for capital to arrive, we'll just have to find another market to play. Sorry to hear about your madre. Kuda guy. All right, Kuda guy. The autumn wind and the winter winds, They have come and gone. And still the days, those lonely days, they go on and on. Good job, Kuda Guy. Welcome to the jungle. That's not very nice. I'm not going to repeat it. Not very nice. I'm not blaming anybody, dude. This is the problem. You want it all personal. There's evidence. This is what's happening. And so if people want to trade their money or invest their money, they need to understand what's happening. It's not about blame. So I just don't want investors, people listening, to react to anything that you try to get them into, which is emotions, personality, some sort of us against them. It's just, you don't even give your name and you expect people to listen to you. You just want to create fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Just look in the mirror. I'm sure your face has caused a lot of fear and uncertainty and doubt in many women's eyes. I know silver's just warming up. So I'm not going to read this guy. And then he says, so it's next week again. Guys, this recommendation, this advice, this strategy, which is not financial advice, by the way, is not this week, next week, hot money. I am not hot money. I'm not. We have a setup and we've had to be patient. That's our cost. The price we pay to potentially make 10x out of the gate. I'm not saying in one day, maybe in a week, maybe in a month, maybe in 2 months, but very quickly make 10x. That's our potential. The price we pay is to have these criminals shorting the stock, and then we get impatient and we go find another beauty to lose our money in. Don't do it. Just stick out here. That's the price we have to pay. Patience, waiting, getting in early. How many more of next week before wipe out? Well, I don't know. You'd have to go check out on the guy recommending the Benedetto beauties. See how long they have before people lose money. I'm not in that game. So you're just talking to the wrong guy. And if you're looking for finger to 3,000, I don't know why you bring that up with me. 4 years ago, I think, it might be 3.5, but a long time ago, I believed a lot of information I was told, and I looked up short squeezes, and I did make videos which I used charts, and I said, well, if it squeezes, this is what could happen. I don't remember saying 3,000, but I think I used Fibonacci numbers, and I think there's certainly a Fibonacci number up at, I can't remember the numbers, but up above that even. But I didn't say that that's where it's going. And just to be clear, Chucky, I don't think finger motion will ever squeeze. Zero chance. It's my prediction. Zero chance. Part of what the argument is to you that there's a squeeze coming in any of these stocks is the idea that Wall Street has to reconcile the imbalance between what Dr. Suzanne Trimbath calls phantom shares with trades, and there's no evidence. I used to think that was believable because it used to be true. But in 1994, Bill Clinton changed the rules. And the rules now are that the brokerage firms can give you a security entitlement. They can use their street name block of shares as collateral for derivatives. And the claim on those shares goes firstly to the derivative holder and lastly to you. So you're essentially an unsecured claim on a block of stock. And it takes a blockhead to think finger is ever going to be reconciled. It's not. It's just not going to happen. Now, I do think any given stock, if you have a surprise out of left field, if you suddenly have an increase in value or revenues or whatever, so that the price of the stock gets out of hand, well, then those short positions can be covered rapidly and at really high prices. But it's a very unique setup that has to happen. And I'm starting to believe you have to have criminal activity on the long side, although I'm all for it. It is probably still criminal. You need criminal collusion on the long side, criminal computer actions on the long side, criminal spoofing back and forth on the long side. You need to get a group of guys that can hide behind China or offshore or trading desks offshore who are paid millions of dollars to do so. And it's probably criminal action, but then you might see a short squeeze. But if just so you understand, Chucky, I think there is a zero chance that finger motion ever gets to $3,000 a share. Zero chance. So thank you for your, I guess I don't know why you're bringing it up to me. I don't remember ever giving that prediction myself. But I guess you feel like you need to comment with your real name. All right, it's almost 3 o'clock. And Railtown is still 48 cents by, no, sorry, it's 47.7 by 48.63, 52.597 by, excuse me, 62,000, 12,000, another 62,000. They want you to think there's a lot of stock for sale, but more than half, 60% of the float is held by corporate insiders. They're not selling. Probably another 30% of the float, if not more, is held by big buyers who have purchased the stock over the last many months, who have no intention of selling. The only stock they can try to get you to sell is yours. Now, there's two dynamics of that. One is, if you sell it, you may never be able to buy that position back, because when they're in trouble, they won't be able to give you this kind of supply again. The other thing is, they, of course, have to ridicule me, and there's a lot of material to work with if you want to ridicule me. But that doesn't change the facts about what goes with Railtown. It's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. And if it works, it's about you. It's about you. All right, let's see if there's any. Did I tell you Djokovic beat Fritz? I tried to stay awake and I fell asleep. I wish I'd stayed awake, but I always miss his. He's got to play Alcaraz now. That's going to be tough. But he can beat Alcaraz. All right, so here's news from Michael Leibovitz. Valuations are extreme. Navigating a bubble. Well, the thing is, valuations can be extreme to a long-term shareholder, but short-term traders can still bid it up because they're doing day trades. They're doing short-term strategies. See, he's using the Warren Buffett indicator. I'm not sure it matters. I think indicators have to adapt. When Warren Buffett started investing, there weren't IRAs, 401ks, SEP IRAs. There was none of that. There weren't ETFs. There weren't big pools of capital. All that capital has to chase assets somewhere, and they're competing with other pools of capital. So it's a different environment than it was before. Of course, to me, what that means, when you see a lot of talk about that, I don't think anyone has ever predicted a crash. I mean, they say they have, and I guess some people like Gerald Celente may have, and but mostly they're broken clocks. Global yield curve is steepening. Yeah. But it's just a chart. I hope I didn't catch a cold. NATO is going to spend 1.5 trillion in 2025, according to Martin Armstrong. And what that really indicates to me is there's going to be war in Europe. I hope Trump can keep us out. I don't think if Trump, for some reason, is no longer there, I think the United States will go to war with Russia because of the neocons and the feminization of our government and decision-making policies, all unrealistic decision-making. You've got to be realpolitik, and we're not there. Trump is. We got to let Ukraine go, let Europe go. NATO is not at war, and yet the alliance has spent more on funding Ukraine than any other conflict. The expenditure 2014 to 2025, this defense expenditure of NATO countries, determined that NATO is expected to spend $1.59 trillion in 2025. The United States continues to uphold the NATO alliance financially with an estimated annual payout of $980 billion, almost $1 trillion. I don't know about you, but do the roads you drive on feel modern? The bridges that are rusting, do they feel safe? But we have $1 billion to give to the Ukraine, which comes back to the Democratic Party. Samantha Powers is worth $60 million. Canada and Europe are predicted to spend a combined $600 billion on NATO. Poland spent more than any other country, followed by Lithuania and Latvia. Before the Russia-Ukraine war, members were spending 1.8% of GDP. That figure is now sitting at 2.76%, and it will increase. Trillions of dollars will be pulled out of productive use and sunk into defense. This will create a fiscal strain, inflationary pressure, and will accelerate the collapse of social programs. Defense budgets soared across Europe ahead of World War I and World War II. War produces absolutely nothing but inflation and destruction. Ahead of the First World War, defense expenditures across Europe began to surge in the decade before 1914. Governments shifted capital from social programs into armaments. Britain expanded its navy to counter Germany, while Germany doubled down on land armies. This was all in preparation for the inevitable confrontation. And they also wanted to deter Russia. The same pattern unfolded before World War II. During the Great Depression, military spending in Germany, Italy, and Japan accelerated while their economies stagnated. By 1935, Germany had already abandoned the Versailles restrictions, pouring money into weapons while ordinary Germans endured wage controls and shortages. Rome followed this path as well. By the 3rd century after death, or Anno Domini, I guess, the military consumed the treasury. Coinage was debased, taxes rose, and confidence collapsed. It was the cost of endless frontier wars which eroded the economic foundation of the empire. Once capital fled, the empire was finished. The same capital flow shift is what we see today, with trillions diverted from productive enterprise into defense, financed by debt, which will only accelerate inflation and contribute to the sovereign debt crisis. The West has chosen the path of militarization, and that is precisely what history warns precedes systemic breakdown. Oh, Lordy. Hospitals in France to prepare for war by the first quarter of next year. France's Ministry of Health has urged all hospitals to prepare for war by March 2026. President Emmanuel Macron is married to a man. Oh, no, it doesn't say that. President Emmanuel Macron repeatedly stated that he is ready to deploy French troops to Ukraine's front lines, and now the entire nation must prepare for the inevitable. Hospitals throughout the nation have been urged to prepare for a major military engagement in Europe, according to a leaked memo published by Le Canard and Shane. The lie? The memo dated July 18 instructs hospitals to staff on a wartime constraints. Staff must learn how to survive the psychological and physical pressures of wartime trauma. Plans are in the works to accommodate patients returning from combat zones, with emergency centers slated to open near airports and train depots to enable the rerouting of foreign soldiers to their home country. The Ministry of the Ministry of Health is preparing for a dire situations. Hospitals should expect to receive between 10,000 and 50,000 wounded personnel over a 10 to 180-day window. You know, I don't think young people are going to go to war. I think these leaders are all smoking pot or snorting cocaine. Young people aren't going to go to war with Russia. I just don't see it. But this is what his computer is predicting. Health Minister Catherine, it's always women starting the war, because they don't have to fight. And old men, they don't have to fight. Catherine Vautrin attempted to downplay the leaked memo, but did not deny its contents. Hospitals are always preparing for epidemics, for surges. The language in the letter clearly details that hospitals must prepare for wounded soldiers arriving from a foreign battleground. His computer, Socrates, has indicated a shift from localized conflict to widespread warfare by 2026. I've warned all who have asked, this is Martin Armstrong, to hightail it out of Europe before it becomes too late. Because once all Hades breaks loose, this conflict will spread like a contagion, and it will engulf the entire continent. That's uplifting. U.S. manufacturing contracts. These neocons are lucky I am not president. This is Martin Armstrong. I would have each and every one of them arrested and imprisoned for life in a CIA dark site with zero human rights. Death is way too good for these people. This is Martin Armstrong reading his opinion. They have brought the world closer to destruction than Khrushchev did in 1962 with the Cuban Missile Crisis. During Blinken's visit to China in April of 2024, reports surfaced that the United States considered sanctions targeting Chinese financial institutions, including possible removal from the SWIFT system, to discourage China's support for Russia and the Russian defense industry. He did issue a severe public warning of significant quote unquote consequences, which would include severe financial sanctions for any country, including China, who provided material support to Russia's war effort. Blinken, idiot. The implication about SWIFT arose because it was the most powerful financial tool the West had demonstrated. The West had just demonstrated it was willing to use this weapon against Russia, making it a logical part of the unstated consequences. This is what created BRICS. The arrogance of these neocons who think they can dictate to the world. They screw the world economy as a whole by transforming the dollar into a weapon. Victoria Nuland, Hillary Clinton, Blinken, Biden. We'll pay for it. You guys may hate Trump, but we'll pay for this idiocy. Therefore, while the threat of removing China from SWIFT was never explicitly made, it was widely understood. The neocons took advantage of Biden's incompetence and usurped American foreign policy. They are outright traitors to this country, and this was a coup of American foreign policy. The actual policy tool would more likely be a targeted secondary sanction rather than a complete SWIFT ban, which would have massive disruptive effects on the global economy. Calling these neocons a piece of shite would be a compliment. There is no word in the English language to describe the depths to which these treasonous characters have usurped the foreign policy of the United States and thus have descended into Dante's hell, dragging the world with them. Dante's hell was organized into 9 concentric circles, each punishing a specific sin. They belong in the worst. They belong in Circle 9. Circle 9, the treacherous. The final circle is a frozen lake, Cocytus, where those who betrayed special relationships are trapped in ice. It is divided into 4 concentric rounds. Round 1, Cania, traitors to kin, frozen in ice up to their chins. Round 2, Antenora, traitors to country or party. All they think of is killing Russians and using American taxpayers' wealth to fund their depraved hatreds, all because Russians used to be communists. And I have heard derogatory remarks about throwing Ukrainians into the meat grinder. That what the hey? They too were not, Nazis and communists. Neither the Russian people nor Putin has any desire to return to communism. The same is true in China and Eastern Europe. The real question is, are these neocons judging others by their own dreams? NATO and the neocons argue that Putin wants to conquer Europe, applying to him the same intentions of Nikita Khrushchev, whose motives was more philosophical, arguing that communism was superior to capitalism. But anyway, Putin is not a communist, and the Russian people do not want to return to the days of Stalin. Nevertheless, NATO has no purpose if there is no war. They need to assert that Russia will constantly conquer Europe, so send them money to keep their jobs and pensions flowing. I want to keep your money flowing, not all these other people. Neocons display a fundamental concept in social psychology. This is a fundamental concept in social psychology when someone judges another by their own actions or desires. A combination of several related biases most accurately explains the phenomena you're describing. It's called the fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error. The psychological principles which define why these neocons judge others by our own intentions and desires. For example, projection. Anyway, it's a long finish saying that they're wrong. The United States in the United States, local governments and states often use their own budgets to purchase investment vehicles. One state in particular has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in Israeli war bonds, Florida. Florida has the most Israeli war bonds in the country at 950 million. It's a lot of squid. All right, let's see if there's anything else in the world to talk about. It's a quiet day. That's because most people are still away in DC. Here's posted yesterday an article from James Rickards, China's Economic and Political Nightmare. When we use the phrase cracking up, we don't mean an immediate and catastrophic collapse. Instead, we refer to a breakdown in the political, economic, and geopolitical spheres, which imply a severe weakening in the power of the China Communist Party, and perhaps even the fall of the CCP over the next few years. That would be momentous. Momentous. My nose. The fall of Xi Jinping. President President Xi Jinping of China has lost much, if not all, of his political power. The People's Liberation Army, which includes the Air Force, Navy, and Rocket Force, is now under the firm control of General Zhang Ujia. Formerly, Zhang was part of the Central Military Commission, of which Xi was chair. Today, Zhang is head of a central party decision-making and coordination body, newly formed. Xi is now subordinate to that body, which leaves him no longer in control of the military. This de facto coup was over a year in the making. Xi Jinping was missing from public view for about 6 weeks in June and July of 24. When he reappeared in August, he was photographed with a patch of his hair shaved, which could indicate the aftermath of severe neurosurgery. This could have been in response to a stroke or other disturbances in the brain. China's economy is far weaker than official reports and Wall Street analysts suggest. That is not the most important news emerging from China. Credible reports suggest that President Xi Jinping's power has been reduced considerably, and he is now subordinate to an oversight committee led by the head of the People's Liberation Army. This could presage political chaos as factions struggle for power. It was at this point that the decision was taken to create, I see that when he came back with this patch on his brain, it was at this point that the decision was taken to create the CP/DMCB. The announcement was delayed for a year in order to give the Politburo time to consider successors and not disturb U.S.-China relations ahead of the U.S. presidential election. Other signs of Xi Jinping's fall from power include the disappearance of General Miao Hua, who was Xi's top ally in the uniformed military. Xi Jinping's failure to attend the BRICS Leaders Summit in Rio de Janeiro in early July is consistent with this apparent loss of power. Xi does have some remaining power on the civilian side of the CCP, but even that is weakening. It is unclear what happens next. The military is turning to factions loyal to Hu Jintao, former president of China, and Jiang Zemin, another president, for guidance. But he's dead. Anyway, Xi has lost what the Chinese call the mandate of heaven, the source of political legitimacy. We may see a scramble for power among competing factions or see the CCP turn into a military dictatorship. In all events, political chaos is emerging quickly. All of this is consistent with 5,000 years of Chinese history. China goes through centuries of centralization, including under the emperors of the Zhang dynasty, the Tang dynasty, and the Ming dynasty. They give the dates. These periods of centralization are followed by periods of decentralization and chaos, such as the 3 kingdoms, the 16 kingdoms, and the period from 1840, that included the Opium Wars, the Taiping Rebellion, the Boxer Rebellion, and the Warlord period, and the Japanese invasion. If the CCP is regarded as a kind of peasant dynasty, reaching a peak of centralization at the 20th Party Congress that gave Xi an unprecedented third term, then decentralization, even disintegration, should not be unexpected. An economic nightmare. The Chinese political stress comes on top of growing economic distress in China. On July 15, 2025, China reported that its economic growth in the second quarter of 2025 was 5.2% annualized, compared with 5.4% in the first quarter. It's important to understand that these growth figures are overstated at best and are more likely complete fabrications. Chinese GDP consists of about 45% investment. That investment level is high compared to a mature industrial economy. Investment can be a good path to growth if the investment is prudently allocated in ways which promote growth, like bombing deserts and assaulting mountains and supporting Israel in every single war that Israel feels it needs to get into because it can't live at peace with its neighbors. So investment can be a good path to growth if the investment is prudently allocated in ways that promote growth or cover the cost of capital. Neither condition is true in China. About half of Chinese investment is wasted on ghost cities, large-scale urban construction that is completely empty and gradually deteriorating, not so gradually in some cases, or spent on white elephant projects such as the Nanjing South train station, which has 128 escalators and no passenger traffic. If China's wasted investment were written off as required under international accounting standards, its GDP growth would fall from 5.2% to 4%. Even that is an overstatement because China ignores non-performing loans and props up its banks and currency with non-economic bailouts. In fact, China may be in technical recession today. Other Chinese, and which is something I've said, which I'm not claiming to know, I listen to different websites. Other Chinese economic data is equally dismal. Chinese producer prices have fallen 30 consecutive months. Sounds like deflation. This is not disinflation, it's outright deflation that has profound consequences when considered in the context of nominal debt. The arithmetic is simple, but the concept is counterintuitive. To understand why, we have to go through a looking glass. Normally, growth in an economy is reported as a real number. This means inflation has been stripped out. If economy has 4% nominal growth and 2% inflation, then it has 2% real growth. But what happens when the price index shows deflation? Deflation is mathematically negative inflation. This means when you adjust nominal growth to real growth, you are subtracting a negative number, which means the deflation adds to real growth. If you have nominal growth of -2% and deflation of 4%, then you have real growth of 2%. A nominal loss turns into a positive real number when you subtract a negative inflation number. But here's the problem. Debt is nominal. You owe what you owe. You cannot pay nominal debt with real growth if the real growth is coming from deflation. You pay nominal debt with nominal growth. And in the case described above, nominal growth is negative. This is the condition China is fast approaching, and it means they are headed to a debt crisis and default. The story gets worse. The People's Bank of China has been working to stimulate the Chinese economy by making liquidity available to the major Chinese commercial banks. The difficulty is those banks do not wish to lend because of credit risk and economic uncertainty. At the same time, major Chinese corporations don't want to borrow because they see few attractive investment opportunities. What about the shadow banking system? That condition, banks won't lend and companies won't borrow, is characteristic of recessions and depressions. It's exactly what prolonged the United States Great Depression in the period of 1929 to 1933, which had nothing to do with gold, by the way. Central bank money has no stimulative impact. It's up to commercial banks to create money that actually stimulates growth, and they're not doing that. In the most recent bank credit report, yuan loans contracted sharply for the first time in over 20 years. The renminbi, the Chinese currency, loans contracted for the first time in 20 years. This domestic credit contraction is matched by a growing dollar shortage in China. And this is what I mentioned a few times. Maybe they're selling US bonds because they need the dollars. The People's Bank of China has been selling US Treasury securities not to dump the dollar. It wishes it had more, but to obtain what dollars it can to support its currency and its banks, who cannot roll over their dollar liabilities, mostly with Japanese banks in the form of the dollar-yen currency swap. Wow, everything is interwoven. This will lead to another predictable outcome, a sharp and unexpected devaluation of the yuan. Which yuan? Similar to the shock devaluation that happened in August 2015. That maxi devaluation, about 3% in one day, sent US stocks crashing. A similar turn of events is likely to be on the way. These specific factors come on top of China's inability to break out of the middle income trap. China moved from low income, 2,000 per capita GDP, to middle income, about 15,000 per capita GDP, through urbanization, stealing technology, and creating assembly-style jobs. To move to high income, which is 20,000 per capita or higher, GDP, requires original technology and high value-added manufacturing. China is not capable of this. Even its AI efforts are based on stolen training sets rather than unique algorithms. Dominating these specific factors is the collapse in the China population. My gosh. I think he's too conservative, but he's at least saying it. The best estimates are that China's population will crash, I think it already has, will crash from 1.4 billion people to 800 million by 2070. I think we're already there or lower. If GDP can be simplified as working age population times productivity, then Chinese GDP must collapse alongside the collapse of its working age population. Productivity gains, if they even exist, cannot make up the difference. This political and economic turmoil is matched by the geopolitical challenges China is facing. With regard to China's recent military escalation, one must ask, is it a sign of strength or a sign of weakness? A glance at the map reveals what geopolitical strategists call the first island chain of major islands that surround China in the Western Pacific. These islands begin with the main islands of Japan, Honshu, Hokkaido, and Kyushu, and a chain of smaller Japanese islands from Amami to Ishigaki, and include Taiwan, the Philippines, the Indonesian archipelago, and Borneo. South Korea and Malaysia are not technically islands, but they form important choke points with the first island chain. Waters between the first island chain and the Chinese mainland have routinely been patrolled by Chinese Navy boats, ships, albeit with disputes over fishing rights and confrontations with the Philippines Coast Guard. Still, China has been considered bottled up inside this chain. The importance of this first island chain is that it provides a series of choke points where oil shipments to China could easily be interdicted. Now, U.S. complacency about keeping China bottled up has been shattered. China currently has 2 aircraft carrier groups, including destroyers, cruisers, and submarines, operating outside the first island chain and even patrolling in the vicinity of the U.S. island of Guam, which is almost 3,000 miles from the Chinese coast. The Chinese Navy looks impressive at sea, but it is not battle tested. Its systems never have operated under actual combat conditions, and it could be a mere distraction from the fact that China's economy is in distress and President Xi Jinping himself is losing his legitimacy. If a kinetic war is not imminent but possible, a trade war is already here. If one considers the 3 pillars of Chinese economy to be domestic consumption, investment, and trade, then 2 of these pillars, consumption and investment, are already failing. Chinese retail sales contracted in June and July. Growth in the Chinese industrial output has slowed from 7.7% year over year in March to 6.8% in June and 5.7% in July. Thanks to Trump's tariffs, the 3rd pillar, trade, may be about to collapse as well. The exact composition of Trump's tariffs on China is still under negotiation. The current rate is 30%, a base rate of 10% plus a 20% fentanyl tariff. But rates could easily go to 50% or higher if Trump decides to punish China for buying Russian oil. Regardless of the final rate, the impact of tariffs on China, including an industrial slowdown and soaring youth unemployment, are already apparent. Youth unemployment was last reported several months ago at about 27%. That's pretty high. I read something in the newspaper. White college-educated women in the United States have a 4% unemployment rate. They are at the apex of benefits from government and DEI. Somehow white women jumped in front of everybody else because they've been so mistreated over the centuries. So anyway, youth unemployment was last reported several months ago at about 27%. We don't know what it is today because the Chinese simply stopped reporting the data. But it's probably worse. High youth unemployment is the dry tinder for demonstrations and social unrest. Chinese exports benefited from some efforts to bring forward demand to beat the tariffs in February and March. It will benefit further because of Trump's recent 90-day extension. Still, the relief is temporary. The full impact of U.S. tariff increases will hit China dramatically from November onward. China expert Gordon Chang points out that the U.S. has bailed out China 3 times in the past. The first was Nixon's visit to China in 1972, which propped up Mao Zedong, even as his cultural revolution was failing badly. The second was George H.W. Bush's decision not to punish China severely after the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. The third was Bill Clinton's effort to allow China to join the World Trade Organization beginning in 1999 that ended with China's admission to WTO in 2001. Chang's advice after these 3 bailouts is, quote, "Let's not do this again," unquote. He's right. China is weakening with or without U.S. pressure. Trump may apply the final push in the form of steep tariffs later this year. Still, China's path is clear, including loan defaults, corporate bankruptcies, and maxi devaluation of the yuan. This is all happening in real time. Investors, beware. All right, we have 18 minutes. Let's get back to Railtown. And of course, they're trying to kill it. The bid is 4601. There's 35,500 shares bid for, and they're showing 12,500 shares for sale at 48.4. The volume today is now 244,000. The last 5 trades, they sold 1,000, or someone bought, I guess, 1,215 at 48.66. Somebody sold 500 at 48 cents. Then they came in with 12,000 at 48.55. There was 500 at 47.7. And then right now, just to frighten you, somebody came in with 2,408 shares and they hit the bid for 47.3. All right, let's see what's happening. Michael Haight. Well, Ham stepped in it a couple of weeks ago when he posted on X that his prediction is 20 days for Finger to run. I don't know I didn't see that prediction. If it's 2 weeks ago, then I assume that prediction runs out next week, or maybe Friday or Monday. We'll see. I don't know what the prediction is, though. Jeff Grimm, 3,000 was Ham's number. Oh, all right. All right. Michael Haight, we are now down to 9 trading days, and I remind him every day about it. For the finger call, 3,000. It's kind of it's somewhat similar to my call on Railtown. If I had to argue, there's 4 days this week, 5 next week, and then that Monday. So it's about yesterday's gone. So if you just start from today, it's about 9 trading days to that September 15th for Railtown too. We'll see which one has a better experience. I know which one I'm emphasizing. Sounds like more EU BS. Yeah. Hey, Ward Richardson, condolences. Thank you very much, Ward. It's awfully kind of everybody. Chester has purchased 48. All right. All right. So you're taking advantage of it, Ward. That's exactly what to do. That's exactly what to do down here. Pete the Greek, lost my faith in him after Pam Bondi BS. Maybe he was trying to scare the shorts, but it was not cool what he did. And then the so-called silence gag order he had, and then came out swinging. Bad form. Yeah, I didn't pay attention to all that. I don't believe that if I were Pam Bondi, why risk your position with Trump? Middle ground. Railtown has established a base at 47, 47 and a half, but pierced it to the downside. Railtown now needs to get above 47 and a half, 48 and hold for a few days and reestablish the support, or 48 can become resistance. I don't know. But maybe I've been told, the soul of a woman was created below. Dun, 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 dun. Well, it is interesting, middle ground. And I think I said it the other day. I'm not claiming I predicted it, but I said that they would try to get this down to the next support area around that 40 cents range. Let me see if I can take a picture of this and show you what I mean. Dun, 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 dun. It's very hard to do. Very hard to do. Very hard to do, but I'll try to show it to you anyway. I suggested that congestion down there, they would try to get us down there. And it looks like that's what they did with that one trade yesterday. I was on a plane. I didn't see it. But it hasn't worked. And they're going to try that again, I would guess. That's what they're trying to do. But the 20-day moving average has crossed over the 50-day. Well, let me make sure I'm right about that. No, it's the other way. The 50-day has crossed over the 20-day, which is a good sign. I might have it backwards. I don't know which behaved first. So that could be a bad sign, actually, if you're following the technicals. I would say, though, middle ground, that 47.5 is already resistance. But what I would argue, depending on how it trades the next couple of days, that they tried to puncture support at 47.5, and they weren't all that successful. They tried again today. And if it closes above it over the next 2 or 3 days, I would just see that as an aberration. But there's no question that that triangle, that pattern of a triangle, they broke it to the downside. So they're going to try to do more damage to the downside while there's no news. But they're doing it on very limited volume. It's all fake shares. It's all fake. There's nothing real. And the only stock for sale that's available is your stock. So don't do it. Don't give it to them. Don't give it to them. I hear what you're saying, Railtown, but I think news changes everything. Sentiment can change on a dime. There's nothing in charts that are etched in stone. They're just doing an attempt to read the behavior pattern of money in a law of large numbers way, all the decisions by a bunch of investors. But if you get that prohibition from buying eliminated because you make the announcement, you could see a lot of buying change that chart pattern very quickly. I mean, you're talking about a chart that has gone down on a few thousand shares. And then, it's filled in with more. So I guess today's volume is 245,000. But it's relatively on the margin, just a few thousand shares that are driving it downward. Imagine if someone came in to buy 1% of the company. It's not going to stay down here very long. Chester just purchased 65,000. All right. Chester is the man. Or is he a dog? 65,417. That's awesome. Ham believes in pipe dreams. I don't know. I think he tries to follow what he used to know. The markets are all different now. They're not the way they used to be. It's all computers. There's no real compliance officers. Your brokers, your wealth advisors, they might as well be insurance agents or real estate agents or car salesmen. They just can come in and allocate your money to different managers. It's totally different. And I think his mistake is he still thinks it's the same. All right, we have 6 minutes to go. They have the bid down to 46. Or maybe buyers just pulled back. We'll see how it closes. The volume is 245,980. It's 46 by 48.4. There's a huge buyer in at 46.01. They don't want to show it to you. It's over 100,000 shares at 46.01. But they're not. They should be showing it to you, but they're not. Technically, that's a higher number. Now there's 33,480 to buy at 46. 5 minutes to go. The volume is 245,980. The last trade is 1,601. That's communication, that one share. 46.01 was the price. And now they have 35.5 at 46.01. So they reduced it. Or there's more than one order at that level. I don't see the full breakout. Hey, Giuseppe. Logged in yesterday, 41. Shook me, took a breath. We'll add more Friday. Yeah, guys, that's why I come on. Don't be scared by these things. They're trying to scare you. And the reason they come on and attack me and make it all personal is they want you thinking emotionally and personally and without a lot of thought. Let me be clear again. This entire week, they are going to attack this stock. And it might continue next week. Whenever the lawyers can get off their spotted derrieres and actually finish, then the companies can announce the acquisition and the buying can begin. There are huge buyers out there who are precluded from buying stock because they have to follow the law. The criminals do not have to follow the law. The law. They do not have to follow the law. Mad Greek just bought. All right. Mad Greek just bought more. All right. I think we're getting closer to 12 million. This is the time to buy. It's on sale. They want to scare people into selling, but no one's selling. So they keep trying. And lower prices, it's the oddest thing. Lower prices make people sell. It's the weirdest thing. But it's the reason I've tried to come on. Nothing has changed. They don't know anything. They don't represent big sellers. I just showed you 60% of the 100 million float is held by insiders. They're not selling. And probably another 20 to 30% or 40% is held by people who have accumulated the stock outside of your group over the last many months. They are not selling. There's probably 80 million shares fully accounted for, maybe 90 million shares that are not selling. There is no selling. The only shares they can try to get some of is yours. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Precious metal fund up, tempted to sell to hold more RT. Um, I, I can't tell you what to do personally, but if it were me, so it's up today 4.75. You're up 100% in total. If it were me, I would swap out and buy Railtown. Why? Because I truly believe Railtown's going to give you 10x in the next in the next I don't know, 2 weeks to 2 months. 10x. I don't think gold's going to give you 10x. And then you can always, all right, where it closed, of course, 46.01. They want it in the red, so it closed down 0.0014, and now the ask is 54. The volume, 247,980, and the trade that got it down, 500 shares. Well, now they're showing. Now, that trade happened at the same time as the 1601 trade. So no trade happened for 35 minutes. But anyway, the last two trades, 1601 shares and 500 shares at 46.01. It's just the greatest buying opportunity you've ever seen. I believe you've got. Today is Wednesday. All day. Today is Wednesday. Tomorrow and Friday are probably. Look, one of these days you're not going to be able to do it, but probably you'll be able to buy tomorrow. Probably you'll be able to buy Friday. But as soon as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week, I think some of those odds of being able to buy at these prices are going to decline. And I think certainly by September 15th, they've got to announce this darn thing. Anyway, we're at 11,743,247,000, 8.4% based on the Yahoo number, 197, maybe 198 people now, and it's pretty awesome. I think what I'm going to do, it's 4 o'clock. I'm hungry, although I did have something to eat at lunch, just before lunchtime. I'm tired. I think I'm going to call it quits for today. I thank everybody for joining in. I appreciate everybody's kind words, and I pray for peace in the world, particularly for the children in the Middle East and the children in the Ukraine and the children, boys and girls, trafficked here in North America and worldwide. I pray children can have their childhood of joy. And I wish each of you peace. Ciao.